Let's construct our school calendar the easy way. That's what we're talking about today. Hi, this is Frank Buck, and this is the place to be if you want to get organized and make it look easy. Before we get started, let me ask you a question. Are you on my email list? And if not, let's take care of that today. Come over to frankbuck.org and sign up on the homepage. I have two free gifts for you. One's going to get your desk clean. The other will put everything you have to do in one digital place, and it's all for free. So, on with the show. The things that we do today, if they can make tomorrow better, so much the better. This time of year, school systems are putting together calendars for next school year. Now, education is a very cyclic business. I know that. I was in education for almost 30 years. We have the same holidays that occur about the same time every year. Grading periods end about the same time every year. Report cards go home about the same time every year. And it's that about the same time that's the problem. That Veterans Day program is going to be somewhere around November 11th, but it may be November 8th one year and November 10th another year, just depending on where the weekends fall. So you couldn't just make all these events yearly repeating events. But today, we've got a solution. And the question came from a reader. One summer day, I received an email from Marissa Donovan, principal at Clarks Creek Elementary in Indiana, and she's a member of my email list. Marissa writes, I love your tips on productivity. So I'm reaching out to you for an idea if you have one. As a school principal, at this time of year, I'm working on next year's calendar. It's convenient to have all of our upcoming dates listed on a spreadsheet, but then we use our Google Calendar for actually keeping things on a real calendar and creating calendar invites, etc. It seemed to me, after working for hours on that spreadsheet of events, that there should be an easy way to automate creating events on Google Calendar from the spreadsheet. And indeed, there is. So, for Marissa and everybody out there, here's the answer. There's a process, but it's a very specific process. First, just as Marissa did, create a spreadsheet and put all of those repeating events on it, all of the assemblies, the PTA meetings, the committee meetings, the faculty meetings. The best way to do this is start with your current calendar for this year. Look at all the events on there and that happen every year, as well as thinking through new events for next year that will probably repeat into the future. Just list them all on the spreadsheet. And now here's the thing. Your columns must be in a very specific order and named in a very specific way. In the blog post that accompanies this video and podcast, you'll see an example of just a few events. Make sure that your spreadsheet has the same columns in the same order, labeled exactly the same way. Now, if you're listening to the audio podcast, be sure to come over to the video where you'll see screenshots of everything I'm talking about. Now, start brainstorming. As I said, look at your current calendar, your calendar for this school year, and everything you see there that you're going to do annually, put it on your new spreadsheet. Now, suppose you're not in school, but you're in a business that has some annual events. Maybe they're board meetings, inventory dates, pay dates, or any other dates that repeat, but not on the exact same calendar day every year. All right, once you've got your dates on the spreadsheet, you're going to download it and save it as a CSV file. Now, that's important. You can't just import into Google Calendar from a spreadsheet. It must be from a CSV file. Once you have your CSV file, we turn to Google Calendar. Click the cog and choose Settings. Now click Import and Export. Choose the calendar to import into, then navigate to the location of that CSV file. I have a multi-day event in my example, a set of 4 teacher work days at the beginning of the year, starting on the 5th and running through the 8th. Now, I found that when I imported these, it cut it 1 day short. It showed the 5th through the 7th. So you have to think of that end date as going to that date rather than through that date. So what you're going to find as you put those holidays that are more than 1 day into that spreadsheet is that your end day needs to be 1 day later than you probably think. I hope that makes sense. With my import file selected and my calendar selected, I click the import button. A box appears showing how many events were successfully imported. Now I can go back to my calendar and look at them. In my example, the teacher workday stopped a day short of what I intended, just as I'd warned you. Again, for multi-day events, go 1 more day on the end date than you think you need to. If I go to the next month where I had 2 events, both showed up on the exact right dates. Now let's look at another example. Suppose I'm the volleyball coach and I use a spreadsheet to plan the volleyball schedule. Use the same fields in the same order as before. Since the start date and the end date of each game are going to be the same, I could copy and paste an entire block of dates from the start date column into the end date column. And if most of the games start at the same time, you could do some copying and pasting or some filling down. And in the description column, you can include admission prices or any other information that people attending the game need to know. So go through the same routine to import the events. When I go back to my Google Calendar, I see the games listed on the proper days with the correct start times. And if I click on an event, it opens and I see any notes in the description section. If I included the address in the location column of the spreadsheet, it will now be a clickable link in Google Calendar. And when clicked, it will open Google Maps for turn-by-turn directions. So what if I do the export and import, but then I need to add some additional events? How do I handle that? Well, add the new events to your original spreadsheet and then go through that export and import process once again. The new events will wind up on Google Calendar, but Google Calendar will not duplicate the existing events. It will just add the new ones that you added. Now, what if I have different types of events for different calendars? Once you've created a spreadsheet with the proper column headers, make a copy of that spreadsheet. So if you have one Google Calendar for faculty, another for parents, and another for extracurricular activities, then you're going to have 3 spreadsheets. Save them in one folder and export each one to a separate CSV file. Then import each one into the appropriate Google Calendar. It's just that easy. A year from now, you won't have to make that spreadsheet again. It's already done for you. Update the dates because you're going to have the same events for the most part year after year, but the exact calendar date is going to change. So change the dates, save as CSV, and you're ready to import again. And in the volleyball example, you'll likely even play some of those opponents next year. You won't be starting from scratch. Just pull up last year's spreadsheet, make the changes that you need, export, import, you're done. Technology tools tend to work together. So taking a little time to learn techniques like this can make many tomorrows so much easier. One more thing before you go. Be sure to come back next week. You see, if you tune in every week and you've been doing so for at least a year, you're probably thinking you heard this episode before, and for the most part, you would be right. So, what's the one thing that I added, and why did I feel the need to redo this episode for you? And more importantly, what techniques did I use that made the job so much easier than it could have been? That's all next week, and I hope you'll tune in for that one. Thanks so much for stopping by. This has been Frank Buck, helping you get organized and make it look easy.